Harry was accused by Colonel Kemp of dividing the media with the soldiers. Hello friends. Welcome to breaking royal news about the notorious hypocritical couple, Harry and Meghan Markle, on our Royal Trust channel. A war hero who lost limbs in Afghanistan and received praise from Prince Harry has expressed his disagreement with the Duke's assertion that the media neglected the plight of wounded British troops. In his latest Netflix series, Harry expressed his anger at the perceived lack of coverage by the UK media regarding British soldiers wounded in Afghanistan, despite several newspapers consistently featuring front-page stories about the conflict and special reports on the troops who sacrificed their lives. These controversial remarks by the Duke of Sussex are part of his new documentary series, Heart of Invictus, which explores the challenges faced by injured veterans. However, these comments have sparked outrage among military heroes, leading some to distance themselves from the once admired royal figure. Ben McBean, a former Royal Marine who lost an arm and a leg to a landmine explosion in Helmand Province, Afghanistan in 2008 and reportedly served as an inspiration for the Prince's Invictus Games for disabled servicemen, took to Twitter to express his disagreement with Harry's claim that the UK press had ignored wounded troops. He stated, "I still have great respect for Harry, but I must respectfully disagree. I am not sure which media he's referring to, but I know that the British media did cover veterans extensively over the years." These developments come as other military commanders and senior veterans also criticized the prince for his statements. SAS hero Andy McNabb expressed his offense, stating, "To suggest that media outlets did not advocate for our injured servicemen is both offensive and untrue." Former Forces Commander Lord Richard Dannett, who served as Chief of the General Staff during Harry's deployment and negotiated the news blackout deal that allowed his tour to proceed, echoed the sentiment, saying, "Everyone's recollections may differ." In an interview with The Sun regarding Prince Harry's Netflix comments, Lord Dannett remarked, "To be charitable, I would say that Prince Harry's memories may not be entirely accurate. He may remember the support he and Prince William provided to Help for Heroes in its early days, as it was launched on October 1, 2007. There's no denying that Prince Harry's return from Afghanistan with injured soldiers did draw attention to the sacrifices made by many families. However, his remarks on that focus were just one aspect among many, and public support for our servicemen and women had already been shifting. Colonel Richard Kemp, the former leader of British forces in Afghanistan, has voiced concerns about Prince Harry's continuous criticism of his own family in the media, suggesting that it is causing a rift among servicemen and women. Speaking on Talk TV, Colonel Kemp noted that Prince Harry had previously enjoyed widespread popularity within the armed forces. This was due to his resolute commitment to serving in Afghanistan on 2 occasions and his active support for wounded soldiers, including his involvement in the Invictus Games. However, Colonel Kemp believes that Prince Harry has eroded much of this goodwill. He attributes this shift to a combination of Prince Harry publicly criticizing his own family, particularly the royal family, which holds great significance for the armed forces, and Prince Harry's apparent efforts to exploit his military service for personal publicity. Colonel Kemp also referred to Prince Harry's prior disclosure, made in his memoir Spare, regarding the number of Taliban members he claimed to have killed. Colonel Kemp expressed skepticism about the authenticity of these claims, asserting that Prince Harry's combat experiences were conducted from a very remote and safe distance, which, in his opinion, would not typically lead to severe stress and post-traumatic stress disorder. Previously, Colonel Kemp had criticized Prince Harry for openly discussing the number of Taliban he had killed, accusing him of distorting the reality of British Army operations and attempting to justify his service to certain ideological elements. In his autobiography, Prince Harry described his victims as chess pieces rather than individuals, explaining that this was his way of coping with the emotional burden of taking lives. Prince Harry later defended his decision to reveal his Taliban kill count to U.S. magazine People, arguing that soldiers should be able to discuss the aspects of their service that haunt them. In addition to criticizing the media in his recent Netflix content, Prince Harry also claimed that he lacked a support network after returning from service in Afghanistan and suggested that his long-standing trauma, dating back to his mother Princess Diana's death, was never addressed. This was seen as another critique directed at the royal family. Critics have argued that Prince Harry was not in significant danger during his military service, as he had constant private security and protection from the SAS. They contend that his actual involvement in combat was limited, with most of his time spent in secure quarters. This has led to the nickname Xbox Harry, implying that his military experiences were more akin to a video game than actual combat. Harry is a profoundly disappointing individual. He continues to make easily verifiable false claims. His assertion that the British media didn't cover this issue is entirely absurd. In fact, The Sun newspaper has been organizing an annual event since 2008 to raise funds for veterans, and Harry himself attended in 2011. He even participated in award presentations alongside the Prince and Princess of Wales. The Sun has raised a remarkable £317 million for veterans through contributions from its readers. Harry's repeated falsehoods are deeply troubling. The Invictus Games Foundation should disassociate itself from Harry, who is seeking personal gain at the expense of these important initiatives. His actions have caused significant harm across various areas, with the Invictus Games being the latest casualty. He has commodified his mother's tragic death, and some people seem to be buying into it. As long as he continues to receive validation for his conduct, both he and Meghan will persist, even if it means fabricating stories and deceiving others. To my knowledge, this public criticism is unprecedented, marking the first time this year that veterans are finding the courage to speak out. Harry's efforts to use the military to salvage his increasingly tarnished image are beginning to backfire. It's becoming an intriguing situation. Will he face backlash at the Invictus Games? Will the former actress from Suits aggressively assert herself on stage after all? I refuse to use any titles like Prince when addressing this unworthy individual who shamelessly traded his family for financial gain. I also won't acknowledge any military rank because he can't compare to those who earned their place at Sandhurst without assistance. He certainly can't stand among those whose bravery and sacrifices are spoken of with deep admiration. It's forever about playing the trauma victim card with Harry. He supposedly suffered trauma at the age of 12 due to his mother's tragic death. Could it have been prevented? Perhaps through seatbelts, a sober driver, or driving within speed limits? Interestingly, he showed no trauma when it came to the scandals surrounding Charles, Camilla, and Diana's multiple extramarital affairs, not to mention their subsequent divorce. None of that appeared to affect him, nor did he seem to be disturbed by his own inappropriate behavior and exploitation of his position and family connections. It's quite unusual, really, that this individual, to put it mildly, seems to believe that he, who might be generously described as having limited intelligence, has experienced trauma from his military service, which was, in reality, cushioned and safeguarded by a security detail. This is especially perplexing given his prior boasts about his kill count and his metaphorical descriptions of combat as a game of chess. Frankly, his claims of trauma don't hold water, as he appears to lack a genuine understanding of the term. When we look beyond the Invictus Games, it raises the question of how much meaningful work he has actually done with veterans, whether they're from his former unit, the Army, the Armed Forces, Sussex, or any other nation. If only Harry had learned to exercise restraint and demonstrate genuine compassion, he might have garnered some recognition for his time in the Army. However, his inability to stop talking about himself has drawn the ire of many, and people are now starting to hold him accountable. Harry serves as a prime example of a member of the royal family who was shielded from the consequences of his actions. His life in the public eye was orchestrated by his family, and without that protection, he seems to resort to sharing personal family information for financial gain, struggling to make a living, incessantly lying, and facing media criticism for his questionable behavior. We can only anticipate the revelation that he didn't accomplish as much during his deployments as he claims. Harry's constant complaints appear to stem from his experience with his own family, which adheres to the motto of never complain, never explain. However, he's now applying the same tactics to non-family members. He seems to believe that because he served in the military, the same tactics that work within his family will apply to individuals who genuinely risked their lives, had blood on their hands, carried out substantial work, and suffered from actual psychological trauma. It seems that criticism of members of the royal family is now fair game. One hopes that military personnel, whom he is disrespecting, will come forward and share their experiences of working with an entitled, complaining individual like him. Perhaps they should direct their grievances to the king for raising such a troublesome individual. Is this what royalty has come to represent nowadays? It's worth noting the many outstanding examples of service within the royal family. Charles, his father, mother, uncle, and siblings all served without complaint. Andrew even went to the Falklands and flew in combat, while Anne, who wasn't permitted to serve, notably competed in the Olympics. Harry could have engaged in some genuine competition as well. While he may not have rivaled his brother, he certainly could have competed on a broader international stage. Certainly, Uncle Eddie may not have possessed the qualities required to become a Royal Marine, but what sets him apart is his decision not to seek the media's attention and continuously lament the challenges he faced. Instead, he acknowledged that military life wasn't suitable for him and quietly withdrew. He refrained from repeatedly expressing a need for emotional support from the public or his mother. He faced the difficulties with grace, retreated from the spotlight, and emerged to offer assistance when Harry's troubling behavior and family betrayals created a void in the A-list circle. Now, Edward has successfully re-entered the A-list sphere, and his improved image can be attributed to his wife, as well as, to some extent, to Harry's questionable decisions. Harry appears to be making a concerted effort to regain attention and salvage the remnants of his tarnished reputation for sale. However, the returns on his efforts are likely to be minimal. It seems he has expended his resources, so to speak. His moment in the public eye has passed, and it is widely acknowledged that he has behaved poorly. Most people have little interest in seeing or hearing from him. Many of us hope that he and Meghan will refrain from disseminating their brand of royal nonsense. A member of the audience has shared their thoughts, having recently watched the first episode of Heart of Invictus. They expressed surprise at the media's apparent oversight of several noteworthy issues deserving legitimate scrutiny. This individual is willing to summarize and address these concerns, adopting an auditor's perspective by highlighting inconsistencies or apparent irregularities that may warrant further investigation. They also seek feedback on whether such an examination should proceed, acknowledging their ambivalence due to having family members on various sides of the family tree, including a current brother-in-law permanently disabled in combat. They believe that initiatives like the Warrior Games, if in existence prior to 2010, could have been more beneficial. If there is consensus that this inquiry is unwarranted or insufficient interest, they are willing to respect those views. As a starting point, they provided a couple of examples of issues they would address from Episode 1, such as the presence of James Holt at multiple out-of-town meetings related to the Invictus Games, despite his role as the executive director of the Archwell Foundation, which differs from Archwell Productions. Who is covering the expenses for Harry's time and his travel and entertainment expenses? Is the Archwell Foundation billing his time to Netflix or the Invictus Games Foundation? If these costs are charged to Netflix, it would reduce the amount that the Invictus Games Foundation receives from Netflix for this documentary series, essentially transferring funds from the veterans to the Sussex's Archwell Foundation. If the Invictus Games Foundation is responsible for these expenses, it would mean that the funds come directly from donations made to the Invictus Games Foundation, which may not align with the donors' intended use of their contributions. In either scenario, money is redirected away from veterans for the benefit of the Sussex's Archwell Foundation. Why were Harry and Meghan equipped with hidden microphones that recorded all conversations at the Salute to Freedom Gala? New York is a one-party consent state, allowing the secret recording of a conversation in which one is a participant. However, Harry was attending this event to present awards to veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. It's possible that they, or some of the other veterans in attendance, believed they were having a private discussion about their personal mental health issues. It would be shocking for them to discover that such conversations were captured by the Netflix crew inside the surveillance van they arrived in, representing a severe breach of trust. Meghan and Harry's voices are clearly audible, but the location of the microphones remains undisclosed. Given the high sound quality and absence of fabric rustling or other interference, the microphones would need to be positioned near their mouths. Meghan's dress bodice is fitted, and Harry's tuxedo doesn't show a visible microphone, raising questions about their concealment. One possibility is that the microphones were hidden in the poppies both Harry and Meghan wore. These poppies are near their mouths and have a black center, which could provide effective camouflage. Such a choice, however, would be highly disrespectful. Additionally, there may be broader issues to consider, such as discussing the expenses each country incurs for sending competitors to the Games, especially if some competitors are not veterans wounded in combat. Interviews from The Hague have revealed that some participants were injured in car accidents, motorcycle accidents, or household accidents unrelated to their military service. Some suffer from non-military related illnesses, and at least one veteran's disability was related to pre-existing depression, predating their military service. These details could be relevant, especially since Harry has often emphasized that the Invictus Games were created for combat-injured individuals, which could be perceived as misleading. The question is whether including such information would be considered acceptable. What do you think about Harry's lies in the Invictus Games? Let us know your thoughts below in the comments section. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this newsletter. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.